everyone, Steve here. Today, I'm excited to announce and launch a new series, what I'm calling Creators Spotlight. And the idea behind it is to invite other Final Cut Pro users and creators on the show to talk about Final Cut Pro, what they like about it, and how they're using it in their day-to-day production. And it's also good to expand the community. I follow a lot of these guys, and they're simply terrific. And I'm super excited to introduce our first guest for today. His name is Dylan Bates, otherwise known as the Final Cut Bro. Welcome, Dylan, to our show, our new show.
Hey, Steve, I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's great to have you. I'm super excited about the show. I mean, I've been watching your channel for some time. I love your energy. I love your teaching spirit. You help people, and I'm just interested in your journey. Tell us a little bit about your background, how you use Final Cut Pro, and just kind of how you got here.
Yeah, so man, I started using Final Cut 7 actually when I was about 9 or 10 years old. I was blessed to have a dad who was a filmmaker, and so he had a copy of Final Cut, and he bought me a camera for Christmas, and so I have 4 siblings, so we grew up kind of making movies together, which was really, really fun, and I started grasping the idea of editing videos from a pretty early age, so that was a ton of fun. But as I was getting older and stuff, more opportunities arrived for me to start editing more on a professional basis, and I was actually given the opportunity to edit full-time for a TV show that was run through my church, and it was distributed globally, which was really an amazing opportunity. My job there was kind of to create short films every single week, just given lots of random footage, shot on iPhone, shot on nice cameras, whatever we could assemble together. And so Final Cut Pro was really integral to that process and helping me edit as fast as possible. And, using keyboard shortcuts and the magnetic timeline really just opened a world of opportunity to get these videos out really, really fast. So that was amazing. And then as I was doing that job, we were also uploading to YouTube, and I just really grew to love looking at the analytics of YouTube and seeing what topics grew really well, what topics didn't, and the whole idea behind making thumbnails and everything there with all the art that's involved with that. So I really grew to love YouTube, and I eventually decided that I kind of wanted to jump off and go do YouTube full time on my own. So that's what I did, and it has been an absolute blast. Using Final Cut Pro has made being a YouTuber very, very easy with how fast you can edit there, and getting out 2 videos a week. I don't know if that would be possible if I was using something like Premiere. No shade on Premiere, it's a great piece of software, but I just really love Final Cut Pro. So yeah, that's kind of been my Final Cut journey, and also kind of my YouTube journey.
So a couple of questions. So I mean, you are a YouTuber. What are some of the positive things for you being a YouTuber? What are some of the challenges? I'm sure people, I would want to know what some of your challenges. I have my own challenges.
Yeah,
but what are they for you?
So the positive thing is the comments, man. It is so amazing just seeing comments from people who pick out certain things you don't even think about while you're teaching through, and how it just absolutely blew their mind. And you're like, oh, I was just pushing the tilde key on my keyboard, and it's something that they never knew. They've been editing for 5 years, and it just opened up a world of opportunity for them. So that has been honestly a huge blessing, getting to see those comments down below. And then the hardship also comes from the comments, because there's always going to be trolls
Yeah.
who just hate you for whatever reason. And you know what? They're going to hate you whether you like it or not. So it does take a toll on you. It's hard. I get people telling me to cut my hair, you hippie, and stuff. And it is what it is. I like my hair, so I'm gonna keep on growing.
No, but your graphic has your beard. Where's your bro beard?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I gotta grow it out. I've been keeping it pretty short, but yeah, that's the kind of thing that happens, and people know that there's a human on the other side, and I try and not hold it against them, but it does always kind of crush you a little bit. So that's the hardship of YouTube, but honestly, the benefits totally outweigh the hardship that happens with YouTube.
How long does it take you? I mean, your videos are very well produced. You have the graphics, and you put a lot of work into them to give a polished look. How long does it typically take you from start to finish to get that YouTube video up
Yeah.
there?
Well, when I first started, it was taking me 8 hours, 12 hours, or whatever to put out the videos. But I've just really streamlined the process. I've built a lot of templates using Motion. I've actually picked up a lot of plugins and stuff since then. I've got my lighting all set up in my office, so I don't have to set up lights when I want to sit down and record. So it went from like 8 to 12 hours for a video down to I can usually get them out in about 4 to 5 hours when
That's
everything
that's
goes
good.
smoothly. But there are days where it doesn't go smoothly. So but when a video goes the typical way, then yeah, I can get it out in 4 or 5 hours.
So let's talk about your process. I know for me and Mark, well, Mark's better at extemporaneously delivering stuff. I actually said that right.
Yeah.
I tend to script a lot, and I'm just wondering how much of your stuff is scripted versus off the cuff, or do you have a tight outline? How do you do it?
Yeah, I do it all off the cuff. That used to try and script it, and I do feel like sometimes the videos benefit greatly from scripting it. But honestly, what I do now is I do off the cuff, and I usually record it 4 or 5 times to get the flow down. And that's my style. I love having that feeling of somebody looking over my shoulder rather than really, put together. And that's just how I like to teach. It would probably speed up the process if I did script though, and it'd probably make the videos that much better. But yeah, that's kind of my process.
No, I was just curious because everybody has their own way of doing it, way of approaching it. I went to a Sony camera camp not too long ago with like all these big YouTubers there, and I was surprised how many of them script. They don't do off the cuff. I thought they wouldn't, but they write the script out and they rehearse it so well until it just seems natural. So
Yeah.
even though it seems like it's off the cuff, it's not. It's highly scripted. They're memorizing, and it's just tight. And that's the amount of work that's impressive to me.
Yeah, and you know what? That would probably increase the amount of time it takes me to get a video out if I
Yeah.
sat down and script it. But I think the edit would go a lot faster. So, and there have been a few videos here and there, usually sponsored videos where I have to get all the information across. That's where I usually will use a little bit of a script, but it's kind of bullet points off to the side.
So you mentioned one of the things that speeds up your workflow is templates, and I couldn't agree more. I personally feel like that is the biggest positive to Final Cut over any NLE. It's just there's so many templates and plugins available. I mean, thousands now. I mean, you don't have to really create anything. You can just modify it. So with that in mind, I thought see, it's unscripted. That's a good transition point or a place where you can maybe show us a tip of how you use Motion to create the kinds of templates that you referred to.
Yeah, so I've been using Apple Motion a ton to build out templates for my channel just to make things a lot faster and easier. And one way that I was using Motion recently was to build a picture-in-picture effect. I actually used to ignore doing picture-in-picture a lot on my channel because it just added a whole bunch of extra steps. But I was thinking about it and I realized you could make a really easy picture-in-picture effect using Apple Motion. So I thought it would be fun to kind of show how that process would go. So I'll go ahead and open up Motion here. And from there, I would select the Final Cut effect. And that's actually going to be pretty important to creating this effect. So now that I've done that, I'll leave these settings. These are what I typically work with in my tutorials at 4K 60. So then I would just push open. And from here, we can see our effect source, which is what is going to drive this picture-in-picture effect. That is what Final Cut Pro is going to actually affect. So if we go down, I can go ahead and select a circle shape, and I'm just going to click and drag and hold shift, and that's going to create that circle. We'll jump into our inspector, and I'll go to my properties and reset that circle so it's directly in the center. Then we'll just go back to the shape settings, and I'll go ahead and disable that outline because we don't want any colors to kind of clash with this effect. So selecting our effect source, we can actually right click and add an image mask. And this is a feature I love in Apple Motion is these image masks. There are image masks in Final Cut Pro, but I feel like they're a lot more powerful in Motion. So I'm going to drag this circle into that image mask, and now you can see that wherever this circle is wherever the effect source is revealed. So that can be really powerful for creating these different kind of templates. So from there, let's say I wanted to add a nice outline around it. Now we could use another circle and link up those parameters, but that's kind of obnoxious. So I'm actually going to go up to the filters, go to the border, and we're going to add the stroke effect. And that's going to give it this nice red outline. And then from there, I'll go ahead and just drag up this width. I'll actually just set that to 30. And then I don't particularly like the red color, so I'm going to change this over to blue. And something to note is that when you get this over into Final Cut Pro, whatever settings you set here are what are going to show up in Final Cut Pro. So by setting this to blue, it's always going to show up as blue in Final Cut. So now something that I want the ability to change is the color in Final Cut Pro, and that's where publishing is really powerful. So if I come over to the right of the color, we can click on this down arrow, and there's this publish button at the bottom. That is going to tell Final Cut Pro, hey, I want to see these different features and be able to change them from within Final Cut. That speeds up the process so much so that you don't have to jump into Motion, change your parameters, jump back to Final Cut Pro. So it's just a massive time-saving feature. From there, I might also publish the width. That's a feature that I will probably want to use. After that, I'm going to go ahead and rename this group just so I know what I'm looking at, and I'll just call it PIP for Picture in Picture. And then I'm going to want this to have a shadow over in Final Cut Pro. So with that main group selected, we'll jump over into the properties and go down to the bottom and find this drop shadow. I'm going to enable that, and then we'll push show so we get some more options. It's going to be important that we publish all of these parameters. So I'll publish the drop shadow, the color, all of these, and it's going to take a few hundred clicks, but it is worth it. Trust me.
Hundreds of clicks.
So now that we've got all of those published, those will all show up in Final Cut Pro as well. Now, one last thing I might want to publish is actually the effect source here, because if the video happens to not line up very well, maybe my face is way off to the side, I want to be able to change it. So by selecting that effect source, we can find the position parameters, and I can click on this down arrow and also publish that. So now this will show up in Final Cut Pro. Now, one last thing I want to add to this is to actually write what these parameters do. So if I jump into the project settings here, we can see all of our different parameters we have published. Now you'll see at the bottom it just says position, but I don't actually know what that is relating to. Is it the position of the entire picture in picture effect or just the video effect source? So you can actually double click on that and just call this video position. And now we've renamed it so that I can clearly understand in Final Cut Pro. We can also click and drag that, so maybe we want to reorder those and put that at the very top. And I like to set that up so that the templates are as easy as possible to use. They're as fast as possible because I know, okay, the first thing I want to do is the video position, then I always want to change the color, then I always want to do the drop shadow. So it can really set up your templates for success if you set them in a perfect order for how you're going to use that template. Okay, so we have all of our template settings here. Now I'm just going to push Command S, and I can just call this Picture in Picture or PIP or whatever you want to call it, and throw it into a category. I'll go ahead and throw it in my tutorials category, and it'll probably whine at me and say, you've already done this. So I'm going to go ahead and replace that. So now that I've done that, I can jump over into Final Cut Pro. And what's great is I don't need to reset Final Cut. It's just already there, as I'm sure a lot of you know. So I'm going to look up the PIP, and I've got two of them. I'm going to use the one on the left. That's the one I just built. So I'm going to click and drag and apply that to my video. And you can see now that this video has that circle shape, and it's got that beautiful outline. I can drag this video around using these settings here, and I can also change the colors as I like. So this can really dynamically set you up for a much faster editing process by actually jumping into Apple Motion. Now, one last thing that I would love to change is to have some on-screen controls, because I don't want to always have to jump over here to the transform panel and shrink it down and do all that. So I would love to just make it so I can just very quickly click and drag directly on the video. So we're going to jump back over into Apple Motion, And what we're going to do is jump into our library. And this isn't stuff that I've come up with. This is what other tutorial creators like Ripple Training have shown. So I'm very grateful to you guys.
Well, thank you.
So we'll jump over into the generators and find our color solid. I'm going to drag that in, and I'll go ahead and disable that color solid. Now we'll jump up to our filters and find a distortion filter, and I'm just going to use the black hole filter, although there are other filters that work better, such as twirl, because you'll have the advantage of adding scale and stuff like that. But we just want the position for now. So we've got this position parameter. I'm going to jump over into the inspector and make sure I check this box for publish on-screen controls. Basically, that's saying to Final Cut, hey, I want to be able to see these on-screen controls directly in Final Cut Pro. Now, what we need to do is link these on-screen controls directly to where the position is here. So I'm going to click on this down arrow for the center and make sure that we can see both the X and Y values. Now, selecting our picture-in-picture effect, we'll go to the properties and find our position settings, and again, we'll reveal those X and Y values. And it's very important that you do these separately. You can't do both at the same time, otherwise you're not going to get all the options you need. So going to the right, we can click on this down arrow, add a parameter behavior, and select link. Now the link parameter is extremely powerful. It's probably my most used parameter in Apple Motion. So I'm going to drag this color solid into the link parameter. By default, it's going to want to use the position of our color solid, and what we want to do is actually use the position of where our center is on our black hole effect. So we'll go back to the link effect, and we're going to change it from our compatible parameters. We're going to change it under the filter settings, black hole, center, and X. So now the X center of the black hole is affecting the X center of our picture-in-picture. However, it's always going to push it off to the side. If I select the black hole, you can see that the value here is 0.5. So we need to actually go into our link settings and change the offset. So I'll just set that to negative 0.5. And now our link is happening perfectly with that black hole setting. So if I click and drag, now the picture-in-picture is working left to right. I'm going to change this to link X position, and then I'm going to push Command D to duplicate that. And then we'll go ahead and rename this to link Y position. Now what we can do is pretty much the same thing. We'll change the compatible parameters. We'll go to filters, black hole, center, and Y. And then we'll go into the position settings and change that to properties, transform, position, and Y. And then again, we'll set that offset, negative 0.5. So now if we go back to our black hole, we can see the on-screen control, and we can click and drag this around as needed. So if I push Command S and ensure that the Publish On-Screen Controls checkbox is checked, we can jump back over into Final Cut Pro. If it shows up here, maybe I'll just hide it there. And I'll go ahead and reapply the effect. I'll zoom in here so we can see what we're... Drag that picture-in-picture effect on, and now you can see that I have this, this on-screen control directly in Final Cut Pro with a gorgeous face from me. And so this can vastly improve how fast you edit in Final Cut Pro, and that's one of my favorite features of Apple Motion. It's practically begging to be broken with creating these on-screen control effects and publishing different types of templates.
Man, you definitely have a very fluid control over Apple Motion, so it's
I hope I've only done that demo like 500 times with nobody watching.
So, well, it was great. So I'm just a side here in terms of personal hobbies and stuff. I see a keyboard behind you. Do you are you a musician? Do you play? Or just curious?
Yep. I do play the piano quite a bit, and I fiddle around with the guitar and stuff. I think music is really, really big when it comes to video editing. Everything's kind of got this nice musical flow. So if you can keep that continuing on, even if you're not working with music, I really feel like interviews almost have a musical flow to them. And so I think that by playing music, that's been really helpful to me to kind of find that flow with editing, and to find those long pauses when you need them, but also to find the moments that need to be fast and upbeat.
Yeah, that's really good. You say I have a keyboard behind me as well. So,
yeah.
So like my Curtis too is doing the switching. He's also a really good guitar player. I mean, super good.
That's awesome.
So we have a lot of musicians in the room, and I just wish I had more time. I need to make time. Anything that's important, you make time for, right? So
my dog hates the sound of piano, so
Really?
I don't get as much time playing the piano as I would like because the dog will just come and complain at me until I stop. So
That's really weird.
I don't know what to do with that. I love the dog
Oh,
though, so
that's great.
I guess.
So, Dylan, I just want to just thank you for coming on the show and being my guinea pig for this pilot for this pilot episode of the Creator Spotlight. I learned some stuff watching you, and I'm sure our viewers will learn a ton of stuff. If you don't know where to find Dylan, there is his address, their YouTube address, right there underneath the pip. We've been talking about pips, Final Cut and the pips. You can see his address down there. Go check out his channel, subscribe. He's got a lot of good stuff up there. Anyway, again, thank you for your time, Dylan. Really appreciate it. And in the comments, if you like this, you want to see more of these type of things, please let us know. I'm excited to have other guests on and show us what they know and talk about their background. So it was a lot of fun. Thank you, Dylan, again, and just good luck with your channel. I'm going to continue to see you grow. I expect you to be at 100K soon.
I hope so, and you too. You guys are so
95.
Slow.
We're at 95. Yeah, 95,000. So we're 5,000 shy of it. So it's been a lot of work, and so I wish you all the best. So thanks for coming on our show, and maybe we'll have you on again soon. So take care, Dylan. Thanks a
Sounds
bunch.
good. Thank you so much, Steve. That was so much fun.